Come on in here.
In the shed. I've been watching them on TikTok.
Well, I'm here today with my buddy Tommy Muncy, and I would say we've known each other since we're kids, but you're a lot older than me, I believe, Tommy.
Yeah.
How old are you, Tom?
I'll be 57 this month.
My Lord, see, I thought you was a lot older than me. But I'm 65. You're 57.
57.
You're just a young boy then.
Still a young boy.
That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. That's
Still
good.
getting around good until I get rode in the loading chute by a cow.
Yeah. Oh, golly.
Got bruised up pretty good.
Yeah. Shoo-wee. Tommy, a lot of you know him. I grew up with him and known his family ever since I was a boy. And known them all. And we talking about growing up together and places we grew up together at and the life we've been through. It's been pretty good. It's been good, ain't it?
It has.
It really has. And life's a journey.
We had strict raising is the main thing I liked about it.
Yeah.
And we had parents that had good morals in their life.
Yes, sir.
That's what it counts. You know, they raised us that way. And it's kind of hard to find in a lot of today's kids. But the ones you do find it in, you know, they got good lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Discipline.
They got discipline in them. Yeah.
So when we talk about family, you know, did you ever get any beatings growing up?
More than once.
I used to get the fire beat out of me several times in my life. And
Yeah.
I skipped school once and got whooped pretty bad. We think about memories growing up and thinking about our life. What are some memories that stand out to you growing up as a boy?
It does. Well, being family, we always had family dinners, especially at Christmas time and Thanksgiving. Mom always made it a special occasion for us, and we had to be there. There was no way we could get out of it. We had to always be at the dinner and be there on time, and we was always together as a family. And we went camping all summer long, every summer long as I can remember back in Slight Creek. And the Muncies, all Muncies and Shaw Poller knows where Slight Creek is. And we would stay over there all summer. And Dad instilled in us and had it based to where we would work, and we all learned how to be farmers and put up hay and work the gardens. And, you know, I always thank my parents for that, because without instilling in your kids to work, they're not going to work. They're not going to ever do nothing. And he done that in us, and we always been successful. And having a praying mom and dad, you know, I always remember every night them, when we'd go to bed, they was always a praying and calling out to the Lord, and they was calling out everybody's name within Shop Holler.
Right.
And praying for them also. You know, they was like kids to them too, because they was mother and father to many people in Shop Holler. And that's the same way it was with John. I can remember his grandpa, JohnDash, and I remember his dad real good. You know, they was always excellent, good people.
Well, who were your parents?
My dad's name was John Crockett Muncy, and we, you know, us kids, we called him Dad, and everybody else called him Junior. And my mom's name was Aline Alberta Altizer Muncy. She was an Altizer. And, you know, they was all real good parents, and I'm really proud to say that I was raised by them. And all my family, they could say the same thing. But the main thing that Mom and Dad instilled in us was Jesus Christ, and to be saved and worship Him. That was the main important thing. And that's something that I'll never forget, because once you know the Lord, you can't never stray away. You always want to come back. And that was the most important thing in my life.
So when you think about family, what did you, so you don't have any, you have any kids?
I got 2 girls.
That's pretty good, ain't it?
Yeah.
Well, girls are interesting, raising.
Yeah, they are.
Interesting, it's a good word, ain't it?
It is. It's a real good word.
You know, and I tell you what, girls seem to have your heart, don't they?
They do.
When you raise girls, they have your heart, and you love them, and you just sort of, you'll spoil them a little bit, you'll do things, but they really have your heart.
They do. Yeah.
And so you got some grandkids?
I got 3 grandkids.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it is. That's a lot of fun. I just wish they lived closer to me, to where I could, you know, see them other mornings and other evenings more and enjoy them.
Yeah.
Because your grandkids always hold a special place in your heart.
Absolutely.
They always do.
I've been pretty blessed to have 2 of mine live within sight of the house.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. Now, sometimes it's a little bit of a wild time, but it's good. Okay. Mine will come over and knock on the door and won't in sometimes. And I have to tell him go home to his house. But he ended up letting him in. His grandma come lets him in. But so when you think about family and brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got, there was 5 brothers and 4 sisters. And I got 2 brothers that's deceased. They passed away. And Danny Muncy, he was next to the oldest brother, and he passed away in 2007. And Billy Muncy, he was 66 when he passed away. And he passed away in 2013. And they was both successful in life. They owned coal mines, and they always had a good income provided for their family.
Right.
And then I got a couple other sisters now. I got Irene and Tammy, Darlene, and Missy. And I got all real good sisters. They always been good to me, and we all still family. And I try to call and check on my sisters just about every day.
Right. Well, I grew up with Tammy and Missy, but I grew up with Tammy, pretty close to Tammy. I mean, she seemed like she might have been a little bit mean growing up. Was she all right?
She had a little mean streak.
See, that's exactly. It seemed to me like she got a little bit of a mean streak. I mean, I'm not beseeching her reputation, but it seemed like she could be a little mean. I mean, probably mean to you, I'm sure. Sisters like that, rough on the brother.
Well, they would correct you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
They correct you a little bit different way than what Mom would. Mom got a switch and corrected you.
Yeah.
In which they would get a hold of you and just shake you a little bit or something and correct you.
Oh, I tell you what, we both lost a good friend of ours. We lost Robert Barrett a while back, and Missy's husband. And I loved Robert. I know you did too. I know you did, and really did. And I tell you what, we forget, man. We're passing through.
Yeah,
we think about family, and this is the thing. If we believe in the Lord and we really believe the Bible's true, we know we're passing through. Okay, and we are leaving here eventually, and family will leave, and some will leave before us, some will leave after us. And,
right.
But it's just part of it, man.
Yeah,
part of family.
It's always been that generation, every generation since the beginning of time.
Just the way it is. I mean, and we know we're supposed to mourn. It's all part of it, but we know it still happens. We go through things, and life's like it, buddy. It's a journey.
We just promise later on, for a better tomorrow, to meet the Lord and meet our loved ones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll be patient. And I think when we think about family, we think about stuff and memories growing up. All right, so we're talking about Shop Holler just a little bit. What are some memories in Shop Holler? Shop Holler is located over in War, West Virginia, near War. What are some things over in that area that stick out in your mind?
I can always remember family, and everybody was always close. And when we went to school, all the other kids would say, "Don't mess with that boy right there, because you'll have to fight everyone in Shop Holler." And that was true. We all took care of each other because we was all families, all us kids was. But we'd fight amongst each other.
Right.
But still, would fight for each other. And everybody, and down there, and we called it down there in the camp, and we thought they was rich because they would get a car or have something kind of nice, and we never had real nice things because we was raised pretty rough a lot of times back in Shop Holler. But it was all based on family and friends back in there. And I can remember coming home from school, and the road was just a dirt road, and it was all chug hose and all the way up and down the road, and you'd walk home and your shoes would be muddy by the time you got to where your house was. You had to walk about a half a mile before you got from the school bus to your house. And we'd hurry and change clothes and go out, and we had a bunch of neighborhood kids to play with, and that's what I always enjoyed. And we all got along good. We played football and basketball. We played a lot of sports and tag, and we'd play plumb up to dark or right at bedtime. We'd go in and get a shower, and then we'd get ready for bed, and then the next day, we went to school and on from there. But I always remember that, and all the mothers was a mother to everyone in Shop Holler. They looked at them, and the fathers done the same thing. They was a father to everyone. Yeah. And if you done something in Shop Holler, everybody, they would get on to you because they was mothers and fathers. Yeah. And I really always appreciated that. They watched that of everybody.
Yeah, you think about that. Listen, you're talking about a place to sleigh ride. You could up top that holler, you could come out there, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could.
It's a long walk back up.
It's a long walk
I
back
mean,
up.
we would come up there. I remember walking from town. We would come up there and sleigh ride.
Yeah.
Up down. Then you had a hill down there called Sagebrush.
Yeah.
Remember that? And you could get you a piece of cardboard in the fall when that grass all started drying up.
Yeah.
You could fly down those hills.
Mm-hmm.
That was always a lot of fun. I think about those memories. Yeah. What do you, when you think about school growing up, does anything stands out in your head?
Well, I can remember the bus drivers, and I can remember what our old bus drivers, they know the routine. You didn't go to school on Halloween because trees was cutting the road. And then when it was slick, if we didn't pour jugs of water up down the road and let them freeze,
yeah,
we either put a lot of snow in the road to where it would be slicker.
Yeah.
And the bus drivers, a lot of times they'd put snow, ice chains and stuff on their bus to where they could get up and down the road, but a lot of times it didn't even help. And
yeah,
that's what Ralph Brewster was talking about. The last time he come to our church, he said that he was talking about Dash Mountain there and how slick it was, Powder House Hill.
Yeah.
He said it was unreal how them Muncy boys would do the road up there. He didn't ever know what to expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, we was always doing something. But I know my mom and dad definitely didn't know nothing about it. I would sneak and do anything if I done it.
I think about memories like that and stuff that we go through and things that we do and growing up. I think kids too lazy now to cut a tree down in the road. You don't have to worry about that. They just don't go.
I don't believe they do it unless they can use a computer to do
it. Yeah, unless you can do it online remotely.
Yeah, unless it's electronically.
Yeah,
that's fact.
I think about that a lot. Well, let's talk about this. If you today, what makes Tommy Muncy happy? What makes you happy? If I today said, let's just mean you go do something that just makes you happy. What makes you happy?
The most important thing that I've learned in life, I'd like to have family and be in church together in a good Holy Ghost meeting.
Right.
That makes me happier than anything.
Okay. I like that.
That's my most happy time. And I've always loved going to church. And, once it's instilled in you, you can't never.
Right.
It's always there. You can't never get it out, but you don't want it out. Because it's always there.
Do you ever go on any kind of vacations or you just stay at the farm and work all the time?
I mostly stay around the farmland. Yeah.
We seem like every time I see you, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing that, and that's a big job. Well, tell me just a little bit when we talk about farming, and what you do. I know you fence, you farm, you're a landlord. You got all kinds of stuff that you do. Yeah. But let's talk about farming just a minute. What do you do farming?
In the summertime, I try to fertilize and put down a little bit of fertilizer, maybe some lime, and get the ground to where it's in good shape to where I can have a good hay crop. And I'll go in and I'll cut the hay and get it all up, and then I try to store it in a safe place to where it's all in good condition and keep it away from the animals to where they'll have it that fall. And then as time goes on, you can get a second cutting, hopefully. And this year's second cutting was real thin on account of the dry spell we had. But, I did get a second cutting. It's the main thing. And then that hay that you produce, you feed unto your cows and that fall. In the wintertime, you feed it to them after the grass goes away.
Right. Yeah. What kind? Do you keep any cattle?
I got Red Angus, yeah.
What's the difference between them and other cattle we're talking about? Why would you keep Red Angus?
It's a different color in them. You got certain breeds that eat certain things, and you want to kind of mix them up. I got Red Angus and donkeys.
Yeah.
Red Angus is real good about eating brush.
Okay. Huh. Now I never knew there really was a difference in what one would eat. What they would eat.
Yeah, some of mine's got Holstein crossed in them, so Holstein's real good about eating brush.
Donkeys pretty easy keepers for me.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I keep them donkeys. I had 25 of them one time, and I enjoy donkeys. Once you get them too, and you sort of get partial toward them, and the bigger they are, the meaner they are. It seems like, you get some big ones, they're mean.
They are.
And the smaller ones, they get a little better. But I enjoy them anyhow. Well, farming, all right, let's talk some. When I talk about fencing, Tommy's most of the places, everything I've had fenced, Tommy's done most of it all, and that is not an easy job. Fencing is not.
It's a lot of work. It is.
Yeah, to do it right.
It's a lot of work, and you got to really know what you're doing to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my dad, he started this in that, many years ago, and I always give him credit for that. And what time Dad, we was a fencing, Dad was always praising the Lord and thanking the Lord for everything we had, and he would teach us how to fence.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I never dreamed that I would ever like doing farming or doing any kind of fencing, but I absolutely love it. Yeah. I love doing fencing.
Yeah.
It's just hard work, but as you get older, you get to a place to where you ain't able to do a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped my nephew Danny quite a bit, and Danny, he's always been a real good fencer. I helped him quite a bit with it.
Yeah.
And we learned each other as time went on and how to fence.
Yeah. Well, I think too, when you see it, when it seems like when you fencing, you have a point of completion. Okay. You've done this and it looks good and it's there, because a lot of jobs that you do, you never seem like they're finished. You know what I mean? In the world today, there's jobs. If you're working in healthcare, you're always going to have more sick people. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're doing whatever, you always have this still going all the time. Even when you talk about being a landlord, you got people moving in, people moving out, this going on, that, and never is anything that's completed. But when you fence, it seems like you fence it and it's done, and you see what a good job you did.
Yeah. I always like doing something at the beginning of the day, that morning, then that evening, you can say, well, I done something.
Yeah.
I would hate to wake up and not do nothing all day.
Well, let me tell you this. I put up some fence one time, some board fence. Okay. Put my posts in the ground, got everything up. I put my treated lumber on the decking boards all on it. I come back out next day and it's all weaving in and out.
Mm-hmm.
How come that?
You may have needed a board in the center of it.
In between the posts?
Yeah. That'll help it.
Seemed like my boards grew and done something, and then I took them all back off.
Mm-hmm.
Done it again. Put them all back up. Come back out. Everything's weaving again. So, right at then, I thought I might as just call Tommy.
Yeah. Call Tommy.
Yeah, it's all Tommy, because I'm not doing any good this fencing at all. I thought, but I put up the board fence, and I see a lot of beautiful board fencing out there.
Mm-hmm.
People do it.
They are.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff, man. And they use a lot of plastic now too, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of PVC type fencing.
It's made to last longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It stays out there, and I don't know. I see that, and I see that a lot. I see a lot of that.
A lot of your treated lumber too. If you get Class 1 lumber, you pay a lot more for it, but it's made not to bow.
Well, I didn't know that.
It's a better class of lumber.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about fencing. We talked about memories. Let's talk about being a landlord. All right, that's got to be a lot of fun to rent to people. You got people coming in. They pay their rent on time every month. They always keep their place clean and neat.
Yeah, they do.
And what are some of the challenges of being a landlord?
Well, the biggest challenge I found was the first time they come to you, they'll point out things they want to do. I want to do this, and can I improve that? Can I fix this up? And I always tell them no. I said, just leave it alone. Anything needs to be done, I'll take care of it. And then next thing you know, it ain't within a month or two that you having bad experiences out of renting. And then they'll move someone in and they'll say, you know what, I'm just wanting to help them out. Because I'll ask them, I said, what are they doing here? He said, I just want to help them out. And I said, I might want to help them out. I said, well, I understand it's just you and your family living here, not everybody else's family.
Right.
And then you'll have cars coming in and out all day long, constantly, people coming in. And then your contract, it says that there's only just to be them up and down the road.
Right.
You can understand family coming in and out. But I've never had too many good experiences at all out of renting, but it's a good income, and it's something that you have to do once you start.
Yeah.
You got to keep doing it.
I've got places right now that are sitting empty. I put new cushion vinyl in, painted the walls, worked on everything, got a bed sitting in and stuff, but I locked them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I talked to my mom. I said, I've got 3 places that I've got empty, but I don't want, people call all the time wanting to rent.
Yep.
But I don't want to rent. I said, no, it's just fine. And got enough rental income, got enough stuff. I'd rather than have somebody else to think about and worry about. I'd just soon not have anybody in it. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Leave your place in a wreck. And there's a lot of challenges. When you get good renters, I don't want no more.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it don't really work out over the long run. It costs you more than what's worth.
No.
But people don't think about that when they rent from you.
They don't. No. Usually anybody's renting, you got to look at the factors about them. They can't buy a place, so they don't have credit. Right. That's why they're renting.
Yeah.
And then if they could buy a place, most of them, they wouldn't even pay the bills on the place. Right. So they're not going to pay you.
You know, most time too, I don't rent. And one thing I've got people that rent from me, I never rent from the same person twice. I rent to you one time. But if you move out, I never rent to them again. I'll have them call, want to rent again. I said, no, I told you when you stayed here, I rent to you one time. And that's it. After that, because they'll come and they'll go. And like you said, a lot of times you rent a property, you have to furnish utilities and stuff like that. And I had a guy one time tell me he was praying for God to give him a financial blessing. He was telling me all about it. And he said, how come God hadn't moved for me? I said, well, let me think for a second. If Appalachian Power can't trust you, why do you think God would trust you? Okay. I said, so you got to, I said, you get Appalachian Power where they trust you.
Yeah.
Then I'd say you might get a prayer through. You know, you might be able to work it out somehow.
They already started out having bad credit.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them have had their electricity in every cousin, uncle, aunt's name.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about it. So we talked about rental property, but let's talk about money for a minute, okay? When we think about money and you think about finances, there's people out there that live off the same amount of income, whatever you get, whatever you make every month, whatever you live off of, but they live from hand to mouth. Why do you think, and this is a real question, why do you think what are some advice you can give people about taking care of their money and finances?
Well, number one thing, I think you should always pay your tithes. Be in some local church, be in a good gospel, Bible-based church. And you should pay your tithes, and it really does count, and it makes a difference to pay your tithes. I always pay mine, and, you never miss it.
But let me ask you this, Tom. We see people that pay their tithes, and they give an offering, but they still live from hand to mouth. Some of them live from hand to mouth. Well, there's got to be some keys that in the flesh that we do that cause us to be able to pay our power bill every month. You know what I mean? And to be able to get a place to live and be able to do things. And there's some things that you've done, some principles that you've applied, that you learned growing up, that you use now.
Well, you would need to make investment. A lot of times, like rental, I invested in rental. I've probably been in it about 16 years now. And it was a good investment, but it was an experience that I'll never forget. You don't know someone until you rent to them. Once you rent to them, you start learning them then. And you got to invest in something. Maybe you may need heavy equipment, or maybe you need to work for someone to where you're making good money. But you should always seek for the best for yourself. And the best is that, you gotta prosper. And that's what the Bible says, He wants you to prosper and be in good health, even though your soul prospers. If your soul's prospering, everything else is going to prosper. It'll come forth to you.
Well, but can you live above your means? Is it possible?
I'd say you probably, maybe, I don't know. It's according to how it is in your heart. Usually anybody, if it's got a real good heart, they just constantly helping people and they stay on the same level as they should be on their raising. If you get above your raising,
Well, I don't mean much. I mean, just because I pay my tithes, can I run out here at Ramey's and get me a new car next week for $1,600 a month? You know what I mean? See, I think sometimes people, they get ahead of stuff, and you can pencil and paper is a pretty good thing. It don't lie a whole lot.
Right.
If you look at pencil and paper and say, all right, I'm making this and I'm making this, and I've always shared with my kids. I said, if you want to buy something, I don't care what it is. It can be an apartment building. It can be a brand new Mercedes. Go see how much it costs and put that much money back for 6 months. Put that back. If it's $5,000 a month, put that $5,000 back. And at the end of that 6 months, if you can do it and you feel all right with it, then go do it.
Right.
And if you decide you don't do it, you still got that money you've saved. If you do it, you still got that much money to pay down.
Right.
But you figure out if you really want to do it, if you want to make that sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes a lot. You know what I mean?
Well, that tells you too, if you can make sacrifice.
Right. See?
I've seen people buy a lot of things or take something and they didn't even have the money.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay it. Then they stuck.
Yeah.
You got to count the cost.
Yeah.
Before you're going to build a building or buy a vehicle.
You got to see what's going to run out there.
You got to count the cost.
I think that's I don't know, I've seen it happen so much in people with good intentions and want to do things, but you really got to look at it and say, this is what I can afford.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I'd love to have I've shared this before. I don't know if you ever seen them. I loved them Chevrolet Sparks that Chevrolet made. Okay. I loved that little, I had one of them. It's the only car I ever felt like I wasn't losing money when I was driving it.
Yeah.
$12,000 when I bought it. Drove it, put 80,000 miles on it, 40-some miles to the gallon. I felt good about it. I'd like to have another one, but my truck runs just fine.
That's right.
It's got 130,000 on it, but it runs like a top, brand new tires. Janice's car runs good, new tires, new battery, everything okay. So I would like to have one.
Right.
But I think, well, you know I don't need it. So at 65, I'm sort of getting to where I'm figuring what I really need and want and what I don't want to have to. Then I think about other things we like to do. You know, Janice, I think, well, if I had to make that payment every month, I could buy 2 tanks of fuel for the camper. And we could be in Florida, you know, for that. And or I think about stuff like that. I think, well, everything's about trading. You trade your time for money and your money for stuff.
Right.
All the time. Time for money and money for stuff. And I think we got to know that. That's part of it, ain't it?
We do. Yeah, you got to count your cost. And a lot of times, you know, I've seen it happen a lot, that you can buy things and you really don't even need it.
Right.
And I've done that a time or two, and I sit back and look at it, and I'm like, why did I even buy it? I didn't need it.
Yeah.
So as I got older, you know, I had to buy my own things, and as I got older, I had to pay for my own.
Yeah.
I learned to just buy what you need. Buy within your means.
Yeah.
Don't continue just to buy just because you can buy.
And I think that's financial advice, okay?
It is.
And if you don't spend your money on crazy stuff too, you just, and I know there's times that we want some stuff, and I'm not saying, listen, man, if you work hard and you want it, but you got to understand, you know, you can get that buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
Can't you?
You can.
You get thinking, what in the world have I done? And that can happen a lot.
Well, you know, kids is that way. They want to buy. They want stuff constantly, and every time you go to the store, when you come out, they want a toy. What did you buy me?
Right.
And they constantly want things, you know, and I've seen grown-ups that way.
Yeah.
And they would constantly want things, and then you buy too much, the next thing you know, you done got yourself in a bind.
Yeah. And it's easy. And, you know, what I found is, too, you got to let other people, sometimes you can put yourself in a bind for other people.
Yeah.
Okay? And when other people's, this is a fact, the way I see it, you can let other people's goofy decisions cause you to be in a bind. Right. Okay? Because you're trying to help them out, and you're really not helping them. No. You're not helping them because they'll do the same thing over again. You got to let sometimes the rubber meet the road.
Right. You're only putting a patch over it.
That's exactly.
To help them for a little while. It ain't solving the problem.
I've always said there's a difference between giving a fish or a fishing pole.
Yeah.
And my kids, I've always tried to give them fishing poles.
Yeah. Not
real fishing poles because I don't fish. But I fished twice in my life. I'm no good at it. But I try to give them a fishing pole instead of fish. You know, and I've seen them all move forward like that. And I think that's when we deal with children and even people in our life. Sometimes, man, you're constantly giving people fish when you need to give them a fishing pole.
Right. That's what they always said down at Southwest College, that you can catch a fish and feed a child for a day. Well, you can teach them to fish and they can feed themselves for a day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they gotta be taught. You can't put a kid in college like my grandson. He would probably go up to a certain grade higher than what he is now, but what he's in now, he's got to learn. And then as time goes on and he gets to a certain age, he's ready for college. You know, you got to be taught that from a child up.
Yeah. I agree with you, Tom. All right, hold on.
Outside, you can go in our work coat off that day, and it's cool in there.
I tell you what I like about this shed. I like the floor. It's waterproof.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's things like that. I don't know. All right, Tom, when we think about changes, let's talk about changes. The world you and I live in now, okay, and mine's a little farther back than yours, but I mean, what are some changes that you've seen in this world that we live in?
I've seen technology grow like I never thought it ever would be. Because I'm from back in the high school from back in the 80s, and they always talked about computers, and computer was very large at one time. And they said the computers they'll get smaller and smaller, and I've learned that to be so, you know, because our cell phones is a computer. And technology has grown so much, it's just really amazed me, and it's only going to get more. It's only going to grow even more. You can take your phone and it can do a sleep study on you. It can know your blood pressure, and they got these watches that you can wear, and you know all about your health and everything that's going on. It's just amazing how technology's grown.
Yeah.
And you know, the Bible even speaks of it, that mankind, you know, they'll just continue increasing, getting smarter, and it's true.
Yeah, I think, and technology, there's going to be some good things. Anything you got, man, you can have a shovel and it be bad or good. Okay, it's good if you can dig and bad if you get hit with it.
Right.
So I mean, but I mean, technology. I think, you know, I've had people a lot of times. I'll have somebody say, "I don't think you ought to." You know, I don't like TikTok, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. And I said, well, you know, everything can be used however you want to use it. These changes that we go through, I mean, I think if you take things and you apply them and you use them in a good way, the way that's good for we live in. But we've seen everything move fast.
Yep.
Like information now. I mean, it moves pretty quick, doesn't it?
Moves fast.
Yeah.
Everything's like a push button.
Yeah.
You push a button, it's instant. And that's why everybody wants it. They want it to be that way.
Used to, when we was growing up, you had to get on the CB to get a word out.
You did.
Get on CB radio.
I can remember I was about the 4th grade before we ever got a phone in the house, and we didn't have water up until I was a little bit older than that. And I can remember we had the outside Johns also, because you didn't have that. And I'm glad I was raised that way.
Yeah. Good.
Because, you know, I was raised up to a certain age. I never raised my girls that way, but, you know, my girls have really turned out good, and I'm 100% proud of them. Everything they do, you know, they've really done good. And they take care of their daddy, I tell you that.
It's good.
Anything I want, they make sure I got it. No matter what, I don't care what it is, they get it for me.
Yeah.
I don't never mention anything that I do want, because if I do, they get it. And I don't want them to buy me a lot of stuff.
Right.
Because just like you was talking about, you know, our life's only to a certain amount of time. We here today and gone tomorrow. Your life's like a vapor of smoke.
Yeah.
And we ain't gonna be here no long time. All I'm doing is just junking my buildings up more.
You have a lot of stuff stored in the storage building stuff.
I do, yeah.
Ain't that something how we do that?
Yep.
I mean, I find myself doing that. The more room you got, the more junk you get, isn't it?
You do.
You're thinking, what in the world? I mean, my house is just a little over 800 square feet, but I have got 4 storage buildings, I believe. You know, my storage building's big. One of them's bigger than my house, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? you get the store stuff. Yeah. So we see those changes. Now, let me ask you this when we talk about changes. You know that a bottle of water at the convenience store costs more than a gallon of gas by the time you pay for that bottle of water. If you took that and added it up. But nobody ever says a word about that, do they?
They never say a word.
Don't think about it. Just going to get that bottle of water. And it's funny, the changes. If you'd have told me when I was a boy growing up we'd be buying water in a bottle,
water.
Who in the world would have thought that?
Never thought it.
No. That or these storage buildings you said. Now, one day you'll be renting a place to put $100 worth of junk. You'll be paying, you know, $100 a month to store it.
Right.
Changes, man.
It's a big difference. I've talked about that a lot. I can remember going back in the mountains and cleaning out back in the bank and getting water because you'd be out either hunting or we done a lot of ginsenging back in too, and you was always down for water. You never packed no lunch or you didn't have no water because you didn't have nothing to put nothing in.
Right.
But we was all raised back in the mountains and back in Slate Creek, and we know where to go to back in the hollers to find water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is. Who's some people that stand out in your mind when you think about it, Tommy, that have really and I'm talking about your mom and dad, but I mean outside of your mom and dad have really touched your life.
Well, my Uncle Rose, my uncles was always real great in my life. My Uncle Rose always did.
Mm-hmm.
And Clavering Muncy, he always stood out real great in my life. And they was always there for me and for advice or anything I needed. And I always thought a lot of them for that. And I had an Uncle Carl. He always give us a job in the mines. He give all the Muncys a chance to make it in the mines and to have a career. And about every Muncy I know of worked for Carl Muncy.
Yeah, sure
that's
did.
where they got their start at.
Yeah.
And he always made a difference. And my first cousin, Melvin Muncy, I always talked the world of him. Melvin, he was always a good minister.
Yeah.
He's been all over the United States a ministering. And you got a bunch more, you know. You got Melvin, Welmer, and Walt. They all us Muncys, you know. We got some kind of ministry in our life that, you know, we always lift up the name of Jesus Christ, and that's, you know, the best thing I know of we could do.
Well, I think about people. You think about people who touch your life, and as you go along, you know.
You do.
And you got some you really miss. We all got people we miss that touched us and really have been there. And I think it's important not to forget them. Yeah, we should remember.
And I got some brother-in-laws too. You know, they always been real good to me, and they always in my memory. And first I can remember back is my brother-in-law Henry Barnett. He was always there for me. Yeah. If I needed something, Henry's always there to help me or give me something, steer me in the right direction. He always was, and he practically raised me and my sister Darlene. They always stayed with him, and they always took care of me.
Yeah.
And when I have fond memories, I always think of them and family time.
Yeah. Well, you think Johnny Muncy's going to make it or not? He's pretty mean too.
He's a pretty mean boy, but I guess if he's mean enough, he'll be able to make it.
I think about Johnny a lot. I like Johnny. I really do.
I do.
And we've been overseas together in Mission Field together. Johnny has. Took Melvin. I've been to Mission Field with Melvin. Took Melvin one time.
Yeah.
We went overseas together, and man, I tell you what, I'm so old, you'd have to cut off my leg and count the rings like a tree, try to figure it out. I've been around, but I enjoy people, don't you?
I do.
I enjoy being around people and talking to them.
I'm a people person. I like people. But sometimes you run into people that don't like you or don't even like people.
All right, so let's talk about that. Sometimes, though, I think we miss an opportunity to stretch ourselves a little bit, okay? So you meet somebody who really don't like you. I found myself sort of going over toward them and talking to them a little bit because it's not that I like to make them lie, but I want to stretch it just a little bit. You know what I mean? And I found this sometimes, Tommy, people you think don't like you don't think as much about you as you think they do.
Right.
And sometimes people just having a bad day.
Having a bad day.
They really are. I mean, there's times you're just having a bad day, and you're thinking, boy, and sometimes people say things that they don't really mean. They blurt them out. They'll say something about somebody, and then when somebody tells you what somebody said about somebody, and somebody said about somebody else, time it gets to you, it's you can't even recognize it.
You can't.
When it was just something somebody said.
Right.
I found that many times, and sometimes people you think don't like you. If you take a little time and go to them, you can find out. I tell you what, I hadn't talked about this in a while. There's something I found about. You ever see some people that you like, and you don't know why you like them, but you see some other people you don't really care much about, and you don't know why you don't care much about them. I've watched it. It seems like because some people smile and some people don't smile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But you see people that smiles, you think, I really like that person. You don't even know why. I found it in people's lives.
Their facial expressions.
Exactly. If they seem like they're happy, you think that's a pretty cool cat.
You do.
I like them.
Yeah, I've seen Christian people like that a lot. That they just have like a little giggle as they talk to you. And I was actually talking to this lady at the doctor's office. This has been several years ago. And she lost her husband, lost her son, well, 2 sons. Yeah. And she was still yet lifting up the name of Jesus Christ. Yeah. And still yet talking about the Lord and saying how the Lord blessed her.
Yeah.
She wasn't telling how hard she had it. And I said, how'd she do that? And as she was talking, she had a little giggle at the end of her laugh. And I'm sure she was upset, but still yet, she was still holding on to God no matter what.
Yeah.
And she never blamed God on nothing else. She was lifting him up over and over.
Yeah.
And I said, that's amazing.
It is. I mean, I don't know. Let's talk about this. All right. Here's a topic that I've shared with a lot of people. Let's talk about forgiveness. Okay. And I've studied a lot on forgiveness because I always try to make sure I stay up against it on forgiveness. I mean, what are some things what do you think about forgiveness? What are your thoughts when we talk about forgiveness?
I think forgiveness, a lot of times it's hard to forgive somebody, but we have to. You forgive them, but it ain't all the times that you forget it. And forgetting it and forgetting them is two totally different things. You should always watch and you go to a certain limit on how you do things. That's the way I've always looked at it. I've had a lot of bad things to happen to me in life, and I would wonder why, and I would just sit back and be patient and not say nothing, because I'm not no big talker about things such as that, or, we're jumping on to somebody. I just leave it alone. And I've noticed once you leave it alone and just pray about it, that God always works it out somehow or another to work out.
Well, and just because you forgive somebody, I don't think you should forget it.
Right.
That's different. Or if you and I met tomorrow, and I turn around doing something, you hit me in the back of the head, I would forgive you. It wouldn't be easy. I forgive you, but next time I seen you, I wouldn't turn my back on you. Okay? Because if I did, I'd be as goofy as I was the first time.
Yeah, you'd be hit again.
I'm thinking, why in the world? So, but forgiveness and forgetting, God can forget, and He'll cast your sins.
He will.
But what I'm telling you, in our life, I don't think we're supposed to just forget it.
We're not forget. It's as a lesson thing.
Yeah.
Everything in your life happens as a lesson to teach you how to live life.
Right.
That's why you should be out and doing things, and trying to help people. You can help them as overcomers. Just like we're doing right here, this will help someone.
Yeah.
It'll help them. It's all for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there's another type of forgiveness I think about, and I've shared this with some people. People can do something to you so bad, or to someone you love so bad. And I've had people share this with me. Man, they said, this one done this to me. And when they shared it, I think, man alive. Well, but this was my answer. Like, there's a forgiveness that can only come from the Lord through you.
Right.
That God will help you forgive. He's the only one that can do that.
Only one.
And if you'll turn to the Lord and say, Lord, I can't forgive them, but God help me through you to forgive them.
Right.
He can do that. And there's no way to explain that type of forgiveness.
That's right.
And I've seen that so many times. I've seen it in people's lives. I've seen people have battles forgiven. And I said, listen, there's no way I can forgive that. But I'm telling you something. If you'll let the Lord help you.
Right.
If you'll let Him help you, you can forgive them.
You got to pray about it with a good, sincere heart.
Yeah.
And He will.
Yeah. And you got to forgive it. And if you can let it go, still remember it. I'm not saying again, but you can forgive them and then let that go, And sometimes, as I'm sharing with you, people having a bad day,
right?
They'll say things or they'll do things that normally they wouldn't do to you, but maybe something happened in their life and put them in that place.
Right. They are already at the breaking point, and then they just snap.
Exactly.
And they didn't mean to snap, but they did it.
Yeah.
And then later on, they sorry for what they done.
I listened to a guy a while back. I was watching this on the internet. I was watching this. They were interviewing this guy that had killed these people in his home. And he had killed his father-in-law and his mother-in-law and his wife. And his big old boy sitting there, he said, I told them to quit it. And they just wouldn't quit it. He said, so I just went upstairs and he went through it just as calm, but he wasn't even, he said, no, I wasn't mad. I just did it. I'm thinking, man, people, as you're talking about, can just snap.
They snap.
And shoot, and you don't know sometimes. And there's I believe the prisons have a lot of people in them that people just snapped.
They do.
Yeah, just snap, man. All of a sudden, shoot, that's a nightmare. All right, Tom, we talked about some important stuff. Let's talk about one more thing before we finish up. Let's talk about music. Okay, now I know we can say, oh, I love page 192 in the Maroon Hymnal. We can talk about
Mhm.
how much we love worship music and all these things. But what music do you like?
I do. I like worship music.
Okay, but now I'm not going to let
Real
you
good.
know that completely. All right, I'm going to keep you with it. And if it is,
Mhm.
you can lock me down. Say this. But I mean, have you ever listened to anything other than gospel music in your whole life?
I did when high school and all,
Right.
and before I become a Christian and got transformed over to gospel
Mhm.
music, I did. I listened to classic rock.
Classic rock.
I
Do you
did.
play any music? Do you play anything? Any instruments or anything?
I can still play guitar.
Can you?
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty good. Leroy can play guitar, can he?
he can.
He really can. Man, he can make you play guitar. He can play about anything
Yeah.
picked up.
Yeah, he does. He plays good.
Think about that. I can't. I took some lessons one time, but I still ain't no good at it. I'm really interested in that down, down, up, up thing,
Yeah.
that strumming type of thing. I never even knew nothing about that.
It's something that you got to really, really want to do
Right,
with all your heart, and then you can do it.
right,
It's like when I get started at it, I lose interest.
right.
So I never could stay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was more of like a talker like we're doing now, and used to be I wasn't. I was real
Right.
quiet.
Right.
But as time goes on, and I tell them at church, I said, you know, as you get older, you get more malleable. You get more bolder. And
Yeah, well, you figure you're old enough to say what you want.
Right. You just don't care.
Yeah.
You don't have, you're not ashamed or nothing. And
Yeah.
that's what my dad always said. He said, you'll be like me when you get older. And I said, I'll never be like that to where I can talk in front of people. And he said, you will. And like now,
He's a smart man, wasn't he?
It don't bother me. Yeah.
I think about this stuff, man. Well, life's good. I appreciate Tommy. I know he works all the time, stays busy, and I appreciate him coming by and just taking some time and being here with me. And like I said, I've known him for a long time, known his family for a long time, and we've always enjoyed ourselves. And just wanted to say a little something. I knew he had some words on his heart that would help you, encourage you. And that is our goal. That's what Just From the Shed is all about. And we're sitting in the shed, just in the shed, ain't we?
Just in the shed.
I share with time. My mom keeps telling me I ought to straighten up the background, do this and do that. I got some zip wax up here. I got that. I got some rat poison back there too. I got all kinds of stuff in here. 409. I got some stuff that ain't worth nothing. Some stuff with cleaner that ain't no good. I got stuff I've never tried out yet. I bought one of these. You hook it on your pressure washer,
Yeah,
and it shoots the bubbles out. It's a foamer. I ain't never used it yet. I've had it about a year now. I'm going to try it, okay? That's one of them late night buys. You ever done that before? I do that sometimes. I buy stuff late
I've
at
done
night.
it before.
I got stuff all in this building I bought late at night.
All of it's late night.
late night purchases.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching Just From the Shed. Adios.